You want me to give you a testimony about my life and how good he's been to me. I don't know what to tell you about him. I love him so much with all my heart and my soul.
If you're watching this video, you are probably sitting in a college classroom getting an education so you can ascend the ladder of adulthood. But you are also drowning in student debt in some way, whether you like it or not. College debt rose by 13% last year alone, bringing the national average to over $1.35 trillion. That's an average of $35,000 per student, and then multiply that by 40 million students. Even at DU, we experience tuition hikes and are not protected after admission from these hikes. I mean, we already pay enough to go here already, and we still have to deal with yearly tuition hikes, broken elevators, and dysfunctional Wi-Fi. There are many ways to pay off this inevitable student debt. This includes tutoring, waitressing, work studies, or just getting a real job. But have you ever thought about the lengths you would go to pay off your student debt? College students have found another way to pay it off: sugar daddies.
You mean these?
No, like actual sugar daddies. Millions of college students are becoming sugar babies and using sugar daddies to pay off their student debt. The number of students that use sugar daddies has grown by 1,200% since 2009. The website Seeking Arrangement is a new form of financial aid.
Attending college means you have the choice. Take out loans and eat ramen. Or get a sugar daddy and live the life you've always wanted. Sugar Baby University, where beautiful, ambitious people graduate debt-free.
On Seeking Arrangement, there are literally 10 million total users across 139 countries. 10 million. This includes 8 million sugar babies and 2 million sugar daddies. That's someone's grandpa looking for a sugar baby. Kind of disturbing. Of these 8 million sugar babies, half of these are college students seeking financial assistance. An academic study was performed on different forms of sex work, and students found that 10% of students engaged in some form of sex work to support themselves financially. Seeking Arrangement advertises that unpaid bills are no longer a concern, and you can indulge in shopping sprees, expensive dinners, and exotic travel. What student wouldn't get drawn into these promises? Apparently, all of these students are walking around with Gucci purses and go on vacations to private islands, while the rest of the student population thrift shops and eats ramen. In Denver alone, there are 2,700 sugar daddies registered and 15,300 women, who are mostly college students. Even entire cheerleading teams are using sugar daddies. Very recently, the Coastal Carolina cheerleading team was suspended under suspicion of using sugar daddy websites. But there's a catch. The definition of prostitution is the practice or occupation of engaging in sexual activity with someone for payment, and prostitution is illegal in the US. The sugar daddy, sugar baby dynamic sounds a lot like prostitution. College students have literally found the loophole within prostitution and around a law that is in place for a reason. I know that you go to college because you're smart, but I don't think that should include finding the loophole in prostitution. The websites are completely legal and basically endorses prostitution covered up by the idea of the sugar daddy. But not just college cheerleaders are taking advantage of this casual prostitution. A junior and straight A student from NYU spoke up at a rally on US higher education in 2015 about her experience in prostitution as a student. My story is a common one, and that is why I need to tell it. Student prostitution is not a rarity, an outlier to be dismissed. Many of you know someone who has worked as a dominatrix, a masseuse, a stripper, or as an escort. If you don't, you know someone who does. It is an epidemic. We came to these universities to better ourselves, to work for a better life. No girl should have to sell herself to make that better life a reality. Sex work is more prevalent in higher education than we can imagine, and is not always hidden by the sugar daddy, sugar baby complex. Several university students are now speaking up about their experience in prostitution to pay bills. For Jessie Nicole, 25, sex work was the only employment option that allowed her to make ends meet and remain a full-time student. I don't usually work a shift where I make less than $400. There have been nights when I've walked out with $800 or $1,000, and there have been some nights when I've walked out with $200. But $200 for a shift at a job isn't that bad. But it seems like everywhere we go, there's a help wanted sign in the window and people desperate to employ college students. So, with so many jobs out there for college students, why do they turn to this casual prostitution? In an interview of a Colorado nursing student, she said that the reason she began prostituting was because she didn't have time to pick up enough shifts to pay off tuition and bills. Because she's making much more money from prostitution with less time commitment, she is able to focus on school more. In a study looking at students in sex work, researchers stated by pitting economic pressure, the requirement to work, and the need for education against each other, a vicious cycle is set in motion that leads some students to turn to seemingly quick ways of maximizing their income through illegal commerce and work in the sex industry. It's sad that we live in a society where students turn to prostitution in order to make time for school and pay bills. Even though these sugar daddy arrangements may sound tempting to the struggling college student, there are several consequences that come with the prostitution life cycle. In March of this year, 3 students from University of Miami and Florida International University were arrested in an undercover prostitution sting. During the trial, the judge even said, "You're a smart girl. If you want to live to see age 20, you need to find a new line of employment. A very risky thing you are doing for somebody with a lot of potential such as yourself." Not only is prostitution dangerous, but the culture and environment that come with it are dangerous as well, and our judicial system is well aware of it. A study performed on students in sex work found that poor psychological well-being, drinking problems, and drug addiction are common among these students. So, if we acknowledge that this line of work is dangerous, then why do we even allow websites such as Seeking Arrangement? Sugar daddy websites are just a place for prostitution to breed. In an academic study performed by Penn State, they identified that the sugar daddy and baby dynamic are a veil over prostitution. The study states that under the Model Penal Code's definition of prostitution, these arrangements may be liable. In an interview of an ex-student prostitute, she speaks out about how websites like Seeking Arrangement and Backpage facilitate prostitution. What is different about Seeking Arrangement is that it advertises and hosts dinner parties for sugar daddies, guaranteeing top 5 sugar babies at his table to sugar date. This direct procuring would mean that Seeking Arrangement is engaged in facilitating prostitution, pimping, or sex trafficking, which shouldn't be protected by the CDA, but as far as we can tell, law enforcement does not seem to care. In this same interview, another girl pointed out that many girls on sugar daddy websites can be found on escort and adult service websites as well. So what are our options to prevent this form of prostitution among college students? The study by Penn State encourages investigative forces to infiltrate these websites to monitor and guard against prostitution. Along with monitoring these websites, is it possible that lowering tuition could also turn students away from sex work? Maybe one day we can live in a society where students wouldn't feel the need to sell their bodies to pay for higher education.